Welcome, everyone, to Hands on Politics, where a couple of brothers from the Bronx get together on a weekly basis to discuss the issues of the day. We are here on episode 93, and we appreciate all of our viewers out there who are hanging out with us here at the Bronx Institute, where we make politics understandable for those who want to understand politics. Today, we start the show off with heavy hearts. Our wonderful Aunt Elaine has passed, and she was such a kind, beautiful soul. Another lost good one. It's so sad, and we send out our love and our hugs to the Doyle family, and our thoughts, prayers, and we will most likely see you soon to celebrate Aunt Elaine's life, who just can. I loved Aunt Elaine. I had so many great conversations back in the day when we used to do the Doyle gathering, but sad news today.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, like you said, thoughts and prayers go out to Uncle Kenny and our cousins, Karen, Kenny, Kathleen, and their whole family. She was an awesome woman. I used to love, just like you, going to the Doyle get-togethers at Aunt Chris's and Uncle Larry's. It was just a great time, and she was a beautiful woman. And we were just blessed, Rich, and are blessed that we have such an incredible family. Really, not only our immediate family, but also aunts, uncles, cousins. So I'm very thankful for that. Now, here's the good news: is that Aunt Elaine is going to be reconnecting with Aunt Liz, another beautiful woman, and of course our mother. And so that gives me hope.
And Aunt Chris, don't forget Aunt Chris. They're going to be up there. They're going to be up there drinking coffee, smoking cigarettes, and chit-chatting away. They love hanging out together. They were a wonderful crew, and with all extended family that's up there. That's a big group hug. The Doyle gathering is growing bigger in the heavenly spaces, and I'm sure she is at peace today.
Yes, absolutely. And Rich, we can't forget our sister Gina. Let's do a shout out to Gina, because Gina. Just recently, we found out she had a little cancer of the mouth, and so she's going through radiation treatment. Started that on Monday. Today she had chemo. Going to be doing that, I think, for the next 6 or 7 weeks. And so, that can't be a good thing. But Gina is such a trooper, and so I'm hoping to get out there within a week or two just to spend a little bit of time with her. But she's a tough young lady. She kept us on our toes when we were living in the house, in the apartment. So Gina, we want you to get better real soon, and we will see you real soon.
Love you, Gina. And we're also, I'm going down Saturday. If we're still having it, it'll depend on what we're doing with Aunt Elaine. But Uncle Tommy,
yes,
Gina and Uncle Tommy have that same cancer, and we're big hugs to Uncle Tommy. Going through another trooper. Tough times. We get older, and we gotta, sometimes reality hits us right in the noggin. But it's good to have great family around to support everybody. And Uncle Tommy has a wonderful supporting cast down there with Tara Kelly and Chris and all of their family, grandchildren, all that. So they're supporting him really, really strong. So
and Kathy,
Aunt Kathy, of course, Aunt Kathy. Yeah. She makes me smile.
Yeah, Aunt Kathy is great. And again, I'll just say one more time, we have a great family on both sides, the Hands and the Doyles. And so I'm so thankful for that. Yeah, so family is good. Family's very good.
Absolutely. So Ken, today we're going to start off with something that a little bit close to your heart. Both of our states, in this recent extension of the Haitian temporary immigration status, whichever, I don't know the exact acronym, but uh, they extended temporary status, and it was extended because of a number of Republicans. I think there were four, two of them from New York,
10.
and one of them from Georgia. Actually, three of them were from New York. Lawler, I can never get to her name, Margoliolis or something. Your guy in
Rich McCormick, my
yeah,
congressman.
yeah, he's actually your congressman.
He is literally my congressman.
Yeah, I think maybe that was the three of them, but New York and Georgia failed in stopping this illegal flow of people into our country. Not just 2 weeks ago, or was it 2 weeks ago that the Haitian immigrant bludgeoned the woman in New York City to death,
Exactly. Yeah.
and we're extending temporary status to a country that you can't even go there because it's just it's a hole, it's a pit, it's got no strong culture, it's just like a place nobody wants to be.
No.
But why would we ship them in the middle of our cities, Ken? It's
Yep.
crazy.
Yep, exactly. And here's a picture on our screen of Haiti. This is Haiti. It is, I'm sorry, a hellhole.
Yeah.
And here is a person. His name is Robert Joken. I'll say an illegal alien from Haiti. He murdered a 51-year-old mother with a hammer. Okay, according to a Truth Social post by President Trump, he said an illegal alien criminal from Haiti who was released into our country by the worst president in history, crooked Joe Biden, and the radical Democrats in Congress, just beat an innocent woman to death with a hammer at a gas station in Florida. I actually watched that video. It was brutal, Rich.
Oh.
Now here, let's talk a little bit about what our State Department says about Haiti. Haiti, it says, violent crime is rampant in Haiti. Gangs, organized crime, terrorist activity. Crimes include robberies, hijackings, sexual assault, kidnapping. Kidnapping apparently is widespread there. But here's, just recently, there was a vote in the House, the Haiti TPS Extension Act. And what it does, let me see here, what it does, it prevents temporary protected status for Haitians being terminated. It extended the legal status for, I think it was approximately 300,000 Haitians in the U.S. for 3 years. So in other words, Haitians cannot be returned to Haiti for 3 years. The bill passed 224 to 204. Rich, there was actually 10 Republicans who voted.
I was going to say, yeah, I'd look at this. I was looking at the numbers that I've only heard the three, but I'm in New York, so I'm getting local coverage of that. So they focus big on that. But 10 this is ridiculous.
10 Republicans. Now, let me just point this out. TPS applies to people in the U.S. illegally. So if you're here, if you came here illegally with TPS, unless you're a murderer, that type of person, you can't be pushed out. You have legal status in the United States. So as long as a person was already in the U.S. before the cutoff date on TPS, anyone with rare exceptions can qualify. So you're not required to have entered the U.S. lawfully. You can be an illegal alien and fall under TPS. Now I want to talk a little bit about my guy, Rich McCormick. Rich McCormick, his first term was just this last one. I attended at least 2 of the debates during the Republican primary. And during that primary, you learn a little bit about his wife and his kids, and he's such a great guy. He served in the U.S. Marine Corps and the U.S. military, earned an MBA from the National University and a medical degree from Morehouse School of Medicine. He's a pilot. He was literally on American Gladiators, if you remember that show. A real pretty boy. He thought he was all that and a bag of chips. And to me, he just seemed way too good to be true to me. And I did not vote for him during the primaries. I voted for Mallory Staples. And if I didn't vote for her, I would have voted for Megan Hansen. But there was just something about him that I did not care for. Well, he gets elected. I did vote for him during the general election, and he dumps his wife and he hooks up with this young lady in Washington, D.C. This is not, this is public news. Everybody knows this, Rich. But I didn't care for that. And then when I saw that he voted with the Democrats to keep Haitians in our country, Haitians like the guy we just saw who bludgeoned a woman to death with a hammer, I just said, that's too much. I called up his offices here in Georgia and Washington, D.C., and I said, I'm going to do everything I can to defeat you. But he sent out a Facebook post. Hey, I voted to extend TPS for Haitians because I cannot in good conscience take individuals who are here legally and blah, 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 followed every rule, paid taxes, built families and careers in our communities, blah, blah, blah. He couldn't send those people back to Haiti. Now, number one, not all the people from Haiti who are here that will be protected with TPS were these beautiful, people from Haiti. A lot of them who are here that we won't be able to send back are not good people. But it ticks me off that a man, this man with good conscience who just dumped his wife, who got me to vote for him. One of the reasons, he has a beautiful family, dumps his wife. He's talking about, good conscience. But here's the thing, Rich, and this really is the most important thing, is the only way that we can take care of people who are from Haiti or from any other hellhole in the world is the only thing that we can do to help them is bring them here, bring them into our cities. Rapists and murderers and, whatever, criminals in general, is the only way that we can help them is to bring them here. Aren't there any other options? And I can name a couple just off the top of my head. Number one, maybe we pay for a ticket to a safer country. Maybe we send them to El Salvador or Costa Rica or, I don't know, Brazil, wherever. If you want to help them, we can send them other places. We don't have to bring them here. Another thing, maybe we go into Haiti. I don't want to do this, or we organize a military operation with countries in our, Central America, South America, and we have them clean up Haiti. There's a million things we can do. And for Rich McCormick to think the only thing that we can do is to bring them here and put them in the middle of our in the middle of our communities so that they can commit crime. I think that's appalling, and I'm not ever going to vote for Rich McCormick ever again. And I encourage every other Republican in Cumming, Georgia, in District 7 and in the U.S. Georgia District 7 not to vote for this guy. He's a lowlife, and he needs to be held accountable, Rich.
Yeah, no, Ken, I can hear the passion in your voice, and I get it 100%. There's a couple of things. First, we don't need to take the world's people. That's not what we should be. Shutting the border completely, all immigration, absolutely all immigration needs to be shut down until we figure out what the hell is going on. And the key thing in his tweet, Ken, I can't in good conscience send them back where gang violence, rape, and murder are daily realities. So tell me, out of 300,000 people, if it's such a daily occurrence and all these people don't want to go, do you think there's some of these people that are committing violence, rape, murder daily are not part of the Haitian community that came here? Ken, I went to school at John F. Kennedy, and we had a huge Haitian population. And I'll tell you, I would never wish Haiti on anybody. Like you said, it's a hellhole, and they need to clean up their act, and literally need to clean up their act, because it is garbage on the streets. Their culture does not care about cleanliness or anything to do with the normal things that we take for granted. That's a great picture. People just going along on their business, walking around piles of garbage. It has the potential. It's another Caribbean island that I think there are probably some resorts on there on remote parts of the island with armed guards that you probably could go to, but why would you need armed guards if your culture was something that respected life, liberty, any of the things that we believe in? Why would you need armed guards for places like that? We don't need to bring this crap to our country. We don't need all of this immigration. We need to shut it down, and we need to reset and figure out who the hell we got here. And we don't need to be extending temporary status to cultures like this. So despicable. We had I know two of the New York reps voted for it. And Ken, the dirty little secret is the hospitals.
Yep.
There's a lot of Haitian workers in hospitals. I will guarantee you the two New York reps represent hospital districts who are looking for cheap labor, and they donate to their campaigns. And I would tie all of these Republicans to cheap labor and their lobbyists and their donors who are filling their coffers. That's who they're voting for, not for the American people, but for the people that put the money in their donors. They all need to be kicked out, primaried out. I don't know what's happening with the Congress and Senate these days. They don't represent the people anymore, Ken. And, the Republicans are as bad as the Democrats 98% of the time. We have been taken over by the interests of people who want to destroy the Constitution, individual freedom of this country, and it really needs to be stopped. The folks that love this country, patriotic, love the Constitution, need to step up and start getting to the ballot box, because you are the majority. You don't know it, but you're the majority, and we need to start like it and get the hell out to vote and start making your voice heard.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Rich. Now, where do you want to go from here? We have Iraq. We have Clarence Thomas.
Yeah, let's go to Clarence, because he's a positive for us. Clarence Thomas is just a brilliant, brilliant thinker. I have so much respect for Justice Thomas, his thinking, his story about the way he was raised and how he's at the top. He's the ultimate example of working hard and putting your nose to the grindstone and becoming successful. And he gave a speech recently, Ken, and he talked about progressivism and how it's undermining the Constitution. And he simply said this progressive groups are more important than the individual, are dangerously impacting the potential future of the United States. Because as we know, Ken, our rights are God-given. They're not government given, they're God given. The Declaration starts off with that. We believe this to be self-evident. And that's a foundational principle that the progressives absolutely hate. Their religion is government.
Absolutely.
Our religion is God-given. No matter what religion, Christian, Judaism, this founding of Christian principles, though we believe in God-given rights and the government works for us, progressivism, and Thomas made this point clear, is so dangerous because they are trying to undermine those principles, and they are getting seeds in the head of our youth that government is the creator of rights, that the government somehow it tells us what we can do. And what a lot of young people don't understand is the reason we're exceptional is not because of our money, of our success, or any of that. It was that this was the first government to put the people in charge
That's
of
right.
their destiny. It wasn't a caste system, it wasn't a monarch, it wasn't a dictator. It was the people chose their representatives. That's what's exceptional about the United States. We, the people, decide. And Clarence Thomas understands that. He makes all of his decisions based on the founding principles. That's why the left hates him so much. And that's why people like me and you love him so much, because I dread the day when Thomas decides to step down, because he's like Scalia. We're never going to get another justice as brilliant. If you've ever read his stuff,
Yeah.
it's just brilliant material. It's like he's been transported from the founding days, like he was part of it, because he understands it so well. I dread the day when he steps down, Ken, and I know you have some thoughts about Justice Thomas as well.
He's a national icon, a national treasure, the epitome of the American dream. I just love him. Uh, I can honestly say every opinion that he's given, I'm like, that's it. That's right.
Yep.
Like between him, Alito, Antonin Scalia, those people knew what the Constitution said and they knew how to interpret it. They knew what their role as a Supreme Court
Original
justice,
intent, absolutely.
original intent. That's correct. And so I think he did a really good job at, I don't know that that he said it, but we are in a culture war, and we have
Absolutely.
progressives who are attempting to replace the founding principles. He talked about that, and the biggest thing is to say, and I think you mentioned it, is progressives want to take away God from being the being that gives us these rights and shifts it to government. They want us to worship government. We want to worship God. I think you did say it. And Thomas also mentioned that there's a cultural shift where there's a rise in cynicism, hostility, animus toward the United States. And we are now questioning the United States, like, are we great? And he points out that a lot of this cynicism in our young people are coming from the colleges and the universities and the intellectuals and the elites. And I think that's true, and it's sad. But like you said, he's the type of person who can kind of restore, end the cynicism, and get us to loving our country, because our country is great.
It's
It's not
fantastic.
perfect, but
No.
it doesn't need to be fundamentally changed. And I think this speech just really did a great job highlighting everything that is great about the United States and warning us about liberalism and how it's trying to tear down the things that have made us great, Rich.
Absolutely. Love him. And of course, he set the left on fire. He speaks, and all of a sudden it's not right for justices to go out there and, they call it politicking. He's just simply stating some facts. Patanji Brown goes out there, and she's part of plays and all of this, artsy whatever, and she doesn't base any of her opinions on the Constitution. She bases everything on her feelings. She is the most underqualified justice we have ever had. I would take a first year law student out of a conservative college any day over her. I would just take common sense individuals on the court over her that understand our basic principles. She is part of the progressive cancer that Clarence Thomas talked about, although he didn't say it in those terms. It is a cancer to the greatness of our nation. She is an example of what will happen if the Democrats take control. Like everything, the Democrats don't believe in our country. They don't believe you have individual rights. They don't believe your money is yours. Your labor is yours. They don't believe people should be successful. That profit that you make because you've done so well, that belongs to the people, because you live here. I don't know what their logic is, but it seems to be if somebody has less than you, then you are evil. These people need to be destroyed at the ballot box, and we need to make sure that this cancer that Clarence Thomas talked about, this progressivism, gets stopped everywhere it comes to, because God forbid. And we've got these midterms coming, Ken, and it's gonna be a nail biter for sure. And I saw something on the Virginia uh, redistricting, and I'm just trying to transition a little here with the Democrats in the midterms. There were 35,000 absentee ballots, and I think it was 86% of those were yes.
You're kidding.
And so I think, yeah, I forget what the actual number was, but the yes side, and I'm thinking to myself, first, why so many absentee ballots? And maybe there is a logic. I don't think anybody should be able to absentee ballot except for military and people that have a legit excuse. They shouldn't just be sending out ballots to everybody, and if you want to send in a ballot, you can send it in. I think they need to investigate all of the votes that were taken that weren't in person. And I think today the SCOTUS is going to rule. They're going to share their ruling on redistricting, and I think there may be something about voting in there too. I'm not sure about that exactly. Ken, what did you think about this Virginia redistricting? I mean, it was a real close vote. It was like 1.3 million to 1.3 million. There was maybe 100,000 votes, maybe 200,000 votes different. But what are your thoughts on the redistricting vote in Virginia?
I think it was like 52% to 48% roughly. Yeah, not a whole lot of votes. I didn't know about all the absentee ballots coming in, but that's definitely a concern. But now think about this, Rich. In 2024, Kamala Harris won 52% of the vote in Virginia. And during that time, the Democrats in Virginia controlled 6 of the congressional seats, and the Republicans controlled 5. So that meant the Democrats had 55% of the seats in Virginia. So 55% of the seats, and Kamala won 52% of the vote. That seems pretty reasonable. But with this new gerrymandered district, as you can see on the screen, it's the one on the right. It would mean they estimate that Virginia will now have 10 Democrats and Republicans will have 1. There will be 10 Democratic representatives and there'll be 1 Republican representative. So that's 91% of the representatives will be Democrats, according to this new gerrymandered district map here. And what you can see on the left side, you'll see that circled area. That's generally the area of Washington, D.C., generally.
That's where all the people live. That's the
where all the people
densest
live.
population. Absolutely.
That work for the government, that are going to vote for big government. So it's a big Democratic stronghold. So you can see on the right, what they're doing is they're taking people from that area that's closer to Washington, D.C., and they're dragging them into the rural locations. Now, drawing maps, I personally don't think it's an easy thing. And if I look at a state's congressional districts, if they're done well, it's hard to tell, but I can tell when they're done wrong. And let me show you, this is an example. These are gerrymandered U.S. representative maps. So here in Illinois, District 4, Pennsylvania 7, and North Carolina, these are districts that were drawn specifically to give a particular party an advantage and to make sure that they win this district. So now I'm going to go back to the Virginia proposed congressional map that passed. You can see all that is about making sure that Democrats get elected. That's wrong. We know that's wrong.
It's wrong all over. The way our founders could not foresee such such power grabs. They did not believe in career politicians. They were all working men. They were all people that had their own business. So they couldn't see this as a career. And what this really is a way for representatives to stay because they're always going to get the Democratic vote. There's never going to be any competition. So in the Constitution, there's really not a lot of talk about any kind of redistricting, except for when the census came out and there's more people, that we had enough representation. And really what they thought was correct representation was farming districts are represented by someone who understands farming. Manufacturing areas were represented by somebody who came from there that understood it. Fishing and shipping. So the districts were meant to be geography based so that the people within that district had a common need that they could have their representatives say, hey, we're farmers. That kind of legislation, by making, let's just take oil, more expensive, is going to hurt our industry because we use fertilizer which has oil, blah, blah, blah. They can represent those interests in that geographical area that they have, and not that the representative is going to represent every piece of all going through from the shoreline to manufacturing to the farmer so that somebody can get elected. That's insane. You can't represent that many. Those people all have different value systems or needs, but the only commonality is that they're Democrats. And unfortunately, so many people have stopped paying attention, and it's a team-based sport. It's Democrats versus Republicans instead of what are our interests as Americans in this area, and does the Democrat or the Republican have the better policies for our area, and let's vote on it that way, instead of let's just get all the people that normally vote for Democrats into this district so that it stays Democrat forever. And the other issue is it affects the Electoral College. So what they're basically doing is eliminating the Electoral College in Virginia, because now you've got all these congressional districts. It's going to make it more difficult for Republicans to win in Virginia in any way. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I think you've done an excellent job of explaining how districts should be drawn. But I want to make another point. The way Democrats handled this redistricting should tell us something about what Democrats are willing to do. And let's just apply this to the filibuster. This is why the Republicans need to end the filibuster and pass the SAVE Act, because when Democrats are in power, which they got in power here in Virginia, right? Who is it? Youngkin, who was in power before, but then the Democrat, a supposed moderate Democrat, comes in power and she pushes this. But when Democrats are in power, they're going to push their agenda down our throats. And so we got to recognize that this is how Democrats play the game. And so now we need to play the game like Democrats do.
Absolutely.
We need to end the filibuster. We need to pass the SAVE Act so that we can get some voting integrity out there. Because when the Democrats are in charge, they're going to destroy voting integrity even more than they have already, Rich.
Totally agree, Ken. It's just a dangerous precedent, all of this. But the good news is that it's going to the Virginia Supreme Court, because they had already passed under Youngkin, who was termed out, or he would have won again, I guarantee it, because he's a common sense guy. They have sent it it's going to the Supreme Court because they have already voted. What they had in place was a commission to set the districts, which was a bipartisan commission, to set districts in Virginia. And this is trying to override that. So it's and the way they got it on the ballot, I guess there's some technicalities there. We're not in Virginia, so it's I don't know all the details there, but it is going to the Virginia Supreme Court, and supposedly the Supreme Court is not happy with it. There's definitely a few judges on that Supreme Court that have really been against this current the way they put this on the ballot right before the election. That's an issue, and changing it, for these midterms, just they're not happy with that. So we'll see what happens in the end. But this is the battle that the country is in right now. We have people trying to win at any cost, and then we have a party that thinks they're still playing the gentleman's game. They're trying to be fair, and it's like, yeah, no, you got to fight fire with fire. And while you have the power, because when they have the power, the only thing that's going to happen, Ken, all we're going to be talking about after the midterms, if the Democrats win, is, oh, here we go again, another impeachment thing, they're going to go after ICE agents, they're going to go after police officers, they're going to try to open the border, and they're going to, the story. These people are absolutely insane, and they're trying to destroy this nation. So that's what we'll be talking about.
I do want to make one more point, because I pulled up the redistricting ballot question. And here's the question that Virginians voted on. Should the Constitution of Virginia be amended to allow the General Assembly to temporarily adopt new congressional districts, listen here, to restore fairness in the upcoming election, while ensuring Virginia's standard redistricting process resumes for all future redistricting after the 2030 census?
Wow, that's actually, I didn't, Ken, what that tells me is they're trying to do this just for this election. So there's what your point was a power grab. So it's a temporary to win this election and then go back. Now I see why the Supreme Court's involved, because this is an obvious power grab.
Obviously.
I can't believe that even got onto the ballot legally to undermine the Constitution with a ballot measure. So that's very interesting. So I'm glad you brought that up. I should have done a little more research on that, but I just like to fly by the seat of my pants.
No. Well, the point the thing that I want to point out is that it restores fairness. Look on your screen. Does that, hopefully, is that shown? Yeah. Fairness. Look on your screen. Does that look like a fair districting?
10 to 1. That's fair in Democrats. 10 to 1.
That's right. Do you mind if I do this first? It hasn't gotten a lot of press, but the U.S. Department of Education proposed a new accountability framework for colleges and universities. The goal is to ensure that students get a positive financial return from higher education and reduce excessive student debt. So basically, the core rule is undergraduate programs whose graduates earn less than high school graduates would lose access to federal student loans, and graduate programs must produce earnings above typical bachelor's degree programs. Programs that repeatedly fail to provide good financial return could lose federal student loans and, in some cases, Pell Grants. And here's the reason that I thought this was so important. Back during the Biden administration, we know that Biden was trying his best to cancel student debt. It would have cost taxpayers $400 to $500 billion. And of course, Biden was doing this because he was buying votes. He was attempting to buy votes. But here's the thing, and this is how I've always looked at it. When you go to college, there's maybe 3 or 4 entities who really have a stake in the game. You have the colleges and universities, right? They want to get paid. You got the banks, they're making the loans, they want to earn the interest. You have the students who want to get a good education. and then maybe the parents who maybe in a lot of cases have paid or co-signers on those loans. But here's the thing, Rich, who doesn't have a stake in students getting loans and paying off those loans? It's taxpayers. And what I want to see here is not only that colleges and universities are held accountable to teaching basket weaving and women's studies and feminist studies where you can't make any money doing. I want them to be held accountable for promoting degrees and things that you can't make money at. I want them to be held accountable for that. But I also
let people, they can pay for it on their own, just not through a student loan.
That's right. But the other thing is, if somebody can't pay off their student loan, the bank, the college or university, and the student, you guys got to figure it out. Don't put your hands in the pockets of taxpayers. And I know that there's people I know who are like, oh, I have $100,000 in student loans. I don't care. You shouldn't have done it.
Absolutely.
I don't have student loan debt. My wife doesn't. My son doesn't. My daughter doesn't.
Nope.
It's not because we're wealthy. It's because we didn't take out huge loans that we used for silly courses and for our living expenses and for our food and our utilities. And, so we didn't do that.
It's basically a way of life for 4 years for some people just to avoid going to work.
Absolutely. So at least I think this is a step in the right direction by the Trump administration. I do want to see tightened up even more to make sure nobody comes back to taxpayers to pay off student loans that should never have been taken out in the first place.
Yeah, Ken. To your point, there's a lot of talk and a lot of, obvious things like that should be easily implemented. It's just common sense. It's like all the NGOs that we found through Doge. Remember, we're not talking about Doge anymore. All of these, I saw an article the other day. Oh, it was Nick Shirley is exposing all the fraud of hospices in California. And there were like 300-400 NGOs that are getting paid to run those things. And like one of them was a food truck. And so those NGOs have been basically shut down because they were caught. They shut down because they're worried about legal action, because none of them had hospice patients. None of them, they were just set up shells that were getting money through Medicare to run a hospice. And Nick Shirley is shutting down NGOs more effectively than the damn Republicans in Congress. I don't think we should have any NGOs right now until they can reprove that there's a purpose. If there's a need in the community for, let's just say, housing, well, let the person apply for a grant to help them with housing. We don't need to send it to a third party so that they can then distribute to these people. What is that all about? If you make $1,000 a week and you need, another 500 because you got kids to support, you're in a low income area, and then, you ask the government for a little help, subsidy, whatever the case might be for housing, why wouldn't that go directly to a person? Why do we have to send $1 billion to an NGO to figure that out? No. People can figure out their own issue and leave these NGOs out, because what they found is with these NGOs is the CEO makes $450,000, $1 million bucks, and everybody that works for it makes a lot of money. And then there's no patients. There's nobody else. Nobody's getting that funding. And if they are getting it, it's being squandered somewhere. I'm so tired of us finding stuff and not doing a damn thing about it. And the president's very good at, highlighting this stuff, but the Republicans are doing, we still have all this crap going on. Who's running Medicare, Medicaid? Is that Oz or whoever? What's he doing?
Yeah.
Where is the money going? What about Besson at Treasury? Where's the money going? You know who it's going to. Shut off the spigots of suspicious activity and make them come back to you.
Yeah.
That's how you stop it. You don't stop it by putting a committee together and pretending that you're looking into it, because these Congress people, they're the laziest people in the world. They don't do anything to actually fix stuff. They are like, oh, pass it on, pass it on. I can't wait until this guy Trump gets out, because all this stuff comes at us and they're useless. I mean, Besson, he's a smart guy. Shut off the spigot of Treasury. You see the checks.
Yep.
You see the checks. If there's a Social Security number that is suspicious, and we know that from Doge, shut them all off. Shut them all off. And then when you get the phone call, hey, that was my Social Security you shut off. Hey, okay, send your information in. Boom. Yep, we're done. Spigot's back on. I don't get it, Ken. It really is frustrating. And, all we're doing is pointing it out, and nobody is. It feels like nothing's being done. And I'm sure some things are being done, but man, it's not being done fast enough for me.
No.
It just drives me crazy. It seems easy. And if it was my and your business, and we had locations around the country, and we weren't getting a return on our dollar, or we were sending money and nothing was happening, our trucks weren't being built, or whatever we had out there, our computers weren't being built, we'd be like, in a second, we'd be out there and you're not getting any more money. It's like, I don't understand it. It's just driving me crazy. I'm sorry I had to rant that, because I'm sure I'm not the only one. I'm sure there's thousands of people out there that are going, why can't we?
Exactly. Think about this for a second. Remember when Doge was shutting down USAID and all these people are flipping out? Think about that. And then think about, is Nick Shirley, is he a genius? Is he like the greatest investigative journalist who's ever walked on the earth? No, he's, a good guy doing some good work.
Doing good stuff.
But I can guarantee you that everyone knows what's going on. The politicians know what's going on. The NGO CEOs know what's going on. The politicians are looking for kickbacks. And we've talked about this before, where, isn't it funny? And I don't know where Democratic political funding is now, but their coffers were basically dried up. So we end a lot of U.S. aid. Again, it's probably not all of it, and it's probably not nearly enough. You stop some of the U.S. aid, and then the Democrats are complaining that they don't have enough money coming into their party. A coincidence? I think not. But these NGOs are places where politicians can get kickbacks. They're places where politicians, when they finish their political career, can get nice, cushy jobs. So I don't think any of this, so you're saying, like, how can this be happening? It's because people know it's happening and they want it to happen, and they're not going to stop until people start going to prison or going to jail. And I hope with the new guy in charge of the DOJ, hopefully we're going to get some people. There's got to be some low-hanging fruit out there of some people that are just stealing money like crazy. And I mean, a lot of them have been identified. I just want to see them go to prison. Absolutely. And when is that going to happen, Rich? That's, I'm looking forward to that happen.
That's the question. Absolutely. Totally agree. So do you want to quickly go to the Iran? It just cracks me up. The left puts out all this stuff from the Iranian, media about how they're winning, and when's the last time you heard of a missile launch coming out of Iran? When's the last time? It's so ridiculous. I think the only thing slowing down the process is, I'm trying to look at this logically. So we have basically annihilated the leadership, the main mullahs. You now have the IRGC, which is an arm of the terrorist mullahs. And then you have the Iranian military. And they're all being destroyed. They've all been destroyed militarily, but they do have enough guns to keep the people and destroy their own people. But Trump is trying to negotiate a deal with a country with no leadership. And I think he's talking to one set of people and the other people are like, screw you. And there's this absolute confusion of who's in charge there. So the president is in a very difficult position here. And I know today was going to be the end of the ceasefire and he was going to start with the bombing, but then he extended it 2 or 3 days because of they're not sure who the hell's in charge. So if we don't know who's in charge, we should not be pursuing any deals. We should be stepping back completely. I wouldn't even say we're going to bomb the place, because if we're blockading it, keeping them from selling oil, any shipments coming and going so that they can't get any more weapons into the country, hold tight. That's all. The oil's going to be overflowing. They're going to have to shut off the spigot. That's really difficult, according to people who understand oil pumping operations. So if they have to shut down because of a lack of capacity for their oil, that's going to be a big deal. We're supposedly stopping shipments of, $400 billion a day to their economy. That won't take long for disruption in the country where there's going to be absolute chaos in the streets. They're going to resolve, somebody's going to rise to the top at that point. I don't know if they're going to be a good guy or a bad guy, but one thing they're going to know is they have to negotiate to get the blockade stopped. All I would be saying is, if I were the president, I would say, we are going to continue the blockade. We're going to stop their money flow, their weapons flows, and we're going to let them work it out. And when a leader comes to the top of the heap that we can deal with, that there's an agreement that the majority of the people, because their economy's in the tank, and we feel it's a legitimate leader, then we step back and they come to us. Let them come to us, because I think that's the only way to do it. The president is anxious to make a deal, and I get that, because he wants this thing to end.
Yeah.
But the only way to get it to end is to completely blockade the place, and so that they don't have any resources to work with, the people that are causing all the chaos. The people, like they started rising up, the merchant class there, they've got to be in desperate circumstances, and they need to come to the table again. And this is their moment, because I don't think there's any other answer. We can't be negotiating with people that don't have the authority. It's a waste of our time. It makes us look bad. Back off. Let them come to the table. Quiet it down. We don't have any real military stuff going on, because we'll keep Hormuz open and let's settle in. It won't take long, because they're already hurting. What are your thoughts, Ken?
Like you're saying, we don't even know if we're talking to the right people. I guess one of my thoughts that has changed, I was always concerned about, we got to get this over. We got to get it over prior to the midterms. And the more I think about it, the more I think, listen, the midterms are the midterms. We got to do this right. And we shouldn't let the midterms cause us to do anything rash, because the only thing worse than not getting this whole thing done by the midterms would be not getting it done by the midterms and there being absolute chaos there because we're trying to get it done so quickly.
Yes. Agreed.
What is the best thing to do? What do we want done? I think on the one hand, we know that we've really destroyed a significant part of their nuclear program and their military program in general. So that's a good thing. I think we've taken away a lot of their power, not all of it. I still don't fully understand why the Strait of Hormuz
Yeah,
isn't
me either.
ours. Just why aren't we in total control of it? Why do I still hear some people talking about Iran being able to kind of stop things? And maybe I'm hearing that from the wrong sources. I don't know, but
Yeah, no, I think we are too, Ken. I think there's a lot of propaganda out there.
that's probably the case. But um, I don't know. Can we just make sure that the Strait of Hormuz is open and make sure that all the other
Price
Gulf
of oil, yeah,
the
price of
oil
oil
is
is down.
flowing.
Yep.
We're making sure that Iran doesn't get any weapons, and we're really starving them. And then just like kind of like what you're saying, just sit
Yeah,
back and
wait it out.
wait
Yeah.
it out. Let
Because
maybe
if nothing's happening, Ken, the media will move on to the next story. They're already on these missing scientists, which I don't know. There's a lot of circumstance there, but they'll move on because, like, everybody said that. What was the issue that was going to be the issue of the midterms, and we're already like I can't even remember. that's how.
well, the
That's how.
price of gas, that's going to be, just
Yeah,
uh,
the
you
things
know,
that matter are the price of gas will be, the price of groceries will be, but the people are getting some pretty big tax returns. That's going to help. There's decent employment, and the wage growth is good. The stock market is excellent at this point. The fundamentals are strong, taxes are down. So those are things that people are going to weigh, and then it's going to be about the campaigning and the candidates responsible to show the craziness of the progressives and not allow the wolf in sheep's clothing to get an opportunity to destroy everything. That's Remember Biden, remember open borders, crime. They want illegals to roam our streets and cause havoc. They need to do their job too. The president has a job to do, but you can't count on Trump to do everything for you. And that's unfortunately what a lot of these people are doing. They're just like they're waiting on the president to do the next thing instead of coming up with their own visions of what they need to do. Talk about healthcare. What's his name? Uh, Ruben, or he was Shark Tank. He was being interviewed today by Steve Ducey.
you're talking about Mr.
What?
Wonderful?
No, the other guy, the tall guy, dark hair. He's Shark Tank. He was on the original Shark Tank.
Talking about the owner of the Dallas Mavericks?
Yes. Um,
Cuban.
uh, Cuban.
Yeah.
That's it. Thank you. I'm so bad with Cuban. He started a healthcare company for drugs, and what he has done is he's figured out how to find out what the drugs cost the company to make, and he adds on a small premium, and he started this company, and it's bringing down drug costs are dropping everywhere, which is a good thing, right?
Sure.
The healthcare, and his next opportunity is to go into the healthcare services and start working with services to find out, okay, where is the lack of productivity here? Where are the costs coming from? And let's look at this and figure out how to fix healthcare. Those are the kinds of things that representatives need to be working with the private sector and coming to their constituents and saying, this is what I'm doing and what I'm going to be proposing, because Congress, you have the purse strings. President Trump can't do it. He'll sign it if it's good stuff. The people want lower health care. They want lower costs. And Cuban made that point. He goes to Steve Ducey, he goes, let me give you a dirty little secret. Republicans want lower drug costs and health care. Democrats want lower costs in health care. Independents want lower. So it's good for everybody. If you're a representative, it's your job is to come up with ideas that will help us to get good access to health care, keeping our wonderful system because it is the best system in the world, but also lowering the costs and not having the government all over it, which is basically what's ruined healthcare. Or it hasn't ruined healthcare; it has increased the cost, and because of all of the rules and regulations about the services they must provide. So the more the private sector focuses on that, the more you as a representative make that appeal to your constituents. You don't have to depend on President Trump. He's doing the big macro stuff. You got to get in there and tell your residents what's the big issue there and come up with the plan and then show them what the Democrats want to do. All they want to do is hate Trump and impeach him. That's all they want to do. But here's what I want to do. 10-point plan. It's not that hard. It really isn't. And that's how we keep the midterms. That's how we keep getting better representatives, is talking common sense and going to the issues that we can all agree upon, right?
I'd like to see that. I don't know.
You said that. I don't think it's going to happen, but man, I would like to see it.
Yeah, I would like to see that. I don't think it'll happen because the Republicans, John Thune, he's a waste of space in the Senate.
Yeah, he really is.
Yeah, Mike Johnson, he does some good things, but they're just not movers and shakers. And
No, they're lazy. They're lazy. That's all.
they're just going to
They're
react.
very comfortable. They're lazy and comfortable where they are. They don't want to do the work.
And I will criticize Trump for, he's not good on messaging like what you're talking about. For example, I think if Trump got out there and said, listen, I know there's some people who didn't want me to go into Iran, and I had no plans on going into Iran. Because I take pride in having not started a new war. In my first term, that's what I did, and I bragged about it. But I'll tell you what, I found out what the Iranians are doing. The Iranians and their desire to develop nuclear weapons was a threat not only to the Middle East, but ultimately to the United States, to Western Europe, et cetera, et cetera. Right now, we're at a place where we've taken out a lot of their capabilities. We're still having some problems here in the Strait. I might ask for some help from the other Gulf Arab states and maybe even from NATO to help them. But we're at a stable point right now. Ultimately, I'd love to see a regime in Iran that will promote a Western type of democracy, but I can't go in there and do that. They have to do it themselves. So right now, this is where we are, and this is where we're going to stay right now. We're going to do all these other things to make America great again. But again, coming back to the military operation, I didn't want to do it, but I had to do it. And I think if you make the argument effectively, this is not Trump's forte.
No, Trump. Now, everybody talks about him being a great communicator. I don't think he's a great communicator. I think his heart is in the right place all the time, I think, for the country. But I made my living going out and talking to people, training people, being in front of audiences, right? I would rank him way down the list when it comes to staying on point and getting the point across that you want to get across. His tangent, he has a perpetual motion of tangents that people have a hard time following, and they're repetitive. It's almost like a reel goes off. And, and I know why he thinks that's a good thing, because he's got to get his own message out there. But what you said, Ken, he can never do. He can't stay in the Iranian, why we did the Iranian thing box, because he will always go to what he did for something. He has to promote something that he did before that has nothing to do with any of Joe Biden was the worst president, and I came in and I fixed it. That whole reel, we know that, and there are places for that. But when you're talking about the Iranian conflict, that ain't the place. When you're talking about healthcare, That ain't the place. Talk to healthcare. It's like you wanna I can't even watch. I just kind of go, oh, here we go. I know I you'll hear the first couple of things what he's gonna say. That's all
Yeah.
you need to know because
Yep.
the rest of it is going to be a rehash of something else. And he's got his policies, his heart's in the right place. Thank God he beat Kamala, but his communication skills to get to a point are really, really lacking. And compared to Joe Biden, there's not even a comparison there. That would be an insult to even compare him. But he can't stay on point. To your point, that's what you need in the midterms. You need to stay on point and don't lose people because you went back to the old play, the old reel. They already heard that 100 times. You don't need to do the old reel.
I totally agree. I wrote down some of the things about Donald Trump. This is kind of my take on Donald Trump, and I'd like to hear what you have to say. So, Trump is a type A personality, very competitive, intense drive, goal oriented, focused. He's kind of like a Michael Jordan. He's a demanding leader. He pressures people, he holds people accountable. He doesn't suffer fools lightly or kindly,
Yep,
kind of like a Bobby Knight. He's
yep,
abrasive, he's blunt,
yep,
he's crude, he's a New Yorker, and he kind of reminds me of like a John McEnroe. John McEnroe was obnoxious in the 70s. He would say things and do things on the tennis court, like yelling at the umpire. But that's just him. He has a desire to have a legacy. He needs his ego stroked. He wants monuments for himself. The ballroom, he wants that because he wants that to be a representation of him. His Miami library is going to be huge. He is a narcissist. He's a braggart. But most importantly, he's a showman like a P.T. Barnum, but with a conservative agenda. But he really does want to make America great again. He's driven by that. And that's why I love him. And also, I'd say he's kind of a transformative leader, kind of like a Winston Churchill, Margaret Thatcher, Ronald Reagan, where he sees himself as a bulwark against the decline of Western civilization. And in the case of Trump, against, a bulwark against the decline of the United States. And
yep,
he just has a deep and unrelenting desire to win, like
yes,
Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, Tiger
yep,
Woods, Muhammad Ali. He's just that type of personality. And that type of personality isn't really good with nuance and
no.
isn't really good at stepping away. So what we discussed and about what he could do during the midterms about Iran, that's not
He'll
him.
never
Not going to happen.
He'll never do it. Yeah, absolutely. That's a pipe dream. We've known that. Ken, that was a brilliant analysis of the Trump personality, the Trump presidency. You should clip that and put it up because that was really well done. And when we talk about politics, it's one of those things that I always say, lesser of two evils, because the people who are in government, they're always trying to take something from you. They have an agenda. They're trying to grow government, and we don't want government grown. We want government. Even Trump grows government. Anybody that seems to get in government never wants to reduce it. So when we talk about politicians, you have to compare what's your choice, not what's your ideal, utopian candidate. It's who is going to do the less damage and who is going to maintain the cultural lifestyle that you believe in, that hard work and individual accountability, leaving individuals alone to do their thing and not ramming stuff down people's throats. You can do what you want. We don't care about that, but don't make me do it, right? So when we look at people like Trump, when he does the Newscomb thing and the uh Hillary or he has all these nicknames. I cringe because what it does is it undermines all the good stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
But would I rather have Kamala Harris, who couldn't get a full sentence out of her mouth? It was a total DEI pick. Biden said he had to have a woman that was black. And, like that eliminated 90% of the country, 95% of the country. So, it's like that was our choice, guys. We had this woman that had open borders, didn't want to change anything because she couldn't think of anything that she would change.
That's
She
right.
laughs and cackles at it was uncomfortable because she's so stupid. She can't come up with an idea on the fly. She's not smart.
She isn't.
She got where she got because of being a female, and she slept her way with the mayor of San Francisco,
Willie
Willie
Brown.
Brown. So that's my choice. So is it a guy that all those traits that you mentioned, or is it Kamala Harris? And the country said, and the Democrats still ask, how could anybody vote for Trump? And all you have to do is go look at the alternative. And if you're a thinking person and you have any patriotic blood in your body and you have any entrepreneurial or economic sense or whatever, your gut she's a failure. Her campaign was a failure. She spent $1 billion and she lost. She was like, she had all the media with her, and you had this guy over here that had ideas.
Yeah.
And
And
the ideas.
the one decision she got to make during her campaign was her running mate, and she picked Tim
Yeah.
Walz.
Yeah, Mr. Hands.
Oh my gosh, yeah, jazz hands. So yeah,
And that son of a gun, he's in Spain along with Murphy, talking about how we're being taken over by a dictator and fascism. What gall these scumbags have going to Spain and talking about our president. Where's John Thune and to admonish or censor or whatever? Somebody going abroad to make those claims, those asinine claims that they don't even believe. They just have to get the left. The only way to get elected is to get the loony progressive left on board. The gall of Tim Walz and Walsh Murphy out there. It just, when did we start going out of our neighborhood to talk about our own internal politics? This is disgusting.
Yep. It never used to happen, Rich. There was an unwritten rule that once you left the shores of America, you didn't have political disagreements.
You represented America.
That's right. But here's the thing. Chris Murphy, Democrat from Connecticut, he took over for Joe Lieberman, a good moderate.
He wasn't a bad guy. He was a good guy.
Not a bad guy at all. So Chris Murphy took over for Lieberman in 2012. This is what's on the screen is his response to what this guy Ali Vaz posted. And I don't know that this is true, but this guy Ali posts at least 26 Iranian shadow fleet vessels bypass U.S. blockade. And Chris Murphy said, awesome. He is celebrating.
Rooting against the military, celebrating our enemies. We've said it many times. The Democratic Party is not your father's Democratic Party. Imagine the military is fighting against Japan or Germany or Russia. And we have a senator that's cheering on Russia, cheering on Japan. They would have been tarred and feathered during World War II or during the Cold War. But Chris Murphy gets cheered on by way too many people in the Democratic Party. And it's just a shame, Rich, but we mentioned earlier, we are in the middle of a culture war. And
And we're fighting against people like this. When Joe Biden, or Barack Obama, when he was screwing up Libya, screwing up Syria, screwing up Afghanistan, or Joe Biden screwing up Afghanistan, did you wish that more Americans died because you wanted political points to be scored against these guys you disagree with? Of course not. But Democrats want the U.S. military to suffer defeats. And yes, many of them want Americans to die because they think it's going to help them in the midterms. It is absolutely disgusting,
Sad.
Rich.
It really is. There's no patriotism anymore. You don't have to love your president. Like you said, when Biden was president, we all knew what he was, and his policies were destroying our country. But to go abroad, I'm still an American. I'm so proud of this country and all the good we have done. And Joe Biden is going to be a blip on the screen. And the last thing I would think about is criticizing my country. I always think about the good stuff that we do, like the wonderful way we tunnel to towers, charities, the way we create things, the way we go to the moon, the way we have SpaceX, we have all of these entrepreneurial things that we do because our culture, it really it celebrates and incentivizes individuals to be great. And it's like, that's how I look at our country. Politicians are a temporary bookmark
Yep.
in a place in time. So do I go back and look and go, oh, our country was great, except for when Obama was there? No, our country was still great. That guy had crazy policies, but our country was still great. We were still doing great things. We didn't agree with the path he was taking us on, but I would never go abroad and say, oh, we're being taken over by Obama. I would have been saying that our politics has shifted, and I think we should get back to this or that if I was asked on the blue. But America is a good thing for the world. Always has been, and I hope always will be. But you look at some of this left that's trying to destroy who we are, and the mechanisms that incentivize people to be entrepreneurs and individual successful people by criminalizing wealth and by stealing from people who earn their income. We could be in for a difficult future. I'll probably be dead, but our children are going to have to react to it. We've got to give them a foundation to say, you really need to think about where you're going with this, because we've already seen it. It don't work. All this democratic socialist communism, it don't work. Just think about you. Put it in your little world. You go to work. Do you want to share it with all your neighbors? You're the one that goes to work. Do you make $100? You got to give $25 to the other three guys that are not working. How does that feel?
Mhm.
And so they're going to have to learn the lesson, because obviously our schools aren't teaching it. We teach it here on Hands-On Politics, because that's one of our monikers. We want to make politics understandable, right? So, I think it's a good way to close this out here, Ken. Let you finish up. But these progressives, they want to undermine everything, and we shouldn't be going offshore. We should be continuing to point to our greatness and what we do for good in the world, not to some phony thing that we're being taken over by fascists and dictators. It's such a baloney.
Yeah. Well, and I think the words of Clarence Thomas at the end of his speech, he talked about a call for civic responsibility, take ownership of the country, actively defend the founding principles, emphasize personal responsibility and civic engagement. And that's what people need to do. They need to understand what made our country great and then promote those principles, Rich. And I'm going to pass
like we do on Hands-On Politics, right? And This was episode 92. Hey, follow us. I know so many of you are following us on Facebook, and we love it. I think we're, 6,300 folks following us. So thank you for everybody that's following us, even if you don't agree with us all the time. And follow us on especially YouTube, because that's where this is. So subscribe to us on YouTube, on Hands on Politics with Rich and Ken 146. We'd love for you to do that. We love talking politics, as you probably can tell, and we appreciate you that you show up and check out our stuff and watch our podcast. So thanks for listening and watching us here on Hands on Politics, where a couple of brothers from the Bronx get together on a weekly basis to discuss the issues of the day. We have created the Bronx Institute, where we make politics understandable for those who want to understand politics. We will see you next week, and then there's always something to talk about. All right, Ken, we'll see you next week.
All right. Great talking to you, Rich.
Great talking to you.